pleasure to meet y'all at last. And well, today is the final ever episode of films I should have talked about years ago. And let me tell you, the past 3 months certainly have been quite a nice time for me to go ahead and talk about various things relating to whatever kinds of films I could potentially identify, whatever kinds of films I could actually watch, and whatever kind of content and appeal I could search for. As a seeker, I never quite imagined that this is how big of a series that this would turn out to be. But yet, here we are. After all, I did have to cut down plenty of episodes. So, this is episode number 81 in the entire series, and it will be the last. Up until another point where I might actually want to come back with some more of this material. So for the final pick that I have today is Liam Neeson's Unknown. Yeah, we're doing another Liam Neeson pick here. And I'd say for this one in particular, it's pretty interesting. It's one of those cases where stolen identity has successfully taken place and one person's life is hanging in the balance, while everybody else does not believe anything that is said. Unfortunately, it's the identity thief's victim who's the only one that knows the truth to all this. This is one of those kind of films that really gives us a good insight on how huge identity theft really plays out and what it could possibly do to anybody out there. Anybody who's had identity thief skills of any sorts probably has some notion about this film. This film in particular, I was able to watch on Netflix a little while ago, and I'm glad that I did because a lot of details are still fresh in my mind. Basically speaking, there's a doctor who's out there in the country in Germany for business-related purposes, along with a good old lover by the side. But unfortunately, this doctor ends up getting into a car wreck after entering a taxi, and upon recovering from this incident, learns about how there's a special ceremony taking place, and, well, unfortunately, it had already been done without the doctor. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as it seems. It's not like they actually went on without the doctor. Liam Neeson's character was actually abandoned because there was in fact somebody who somehow managed to take this guy's identity. And the unfortunate thing about it is that Neeson is not able to convince anybody out there that, unfortunately, whoever that is not actually the real person with the real identity. And upon entering that same hotel prior to the car accident that happened that night, it does seem that there was a lot of complications into this. The plot line of this film is certainly, without a doubt, pretty constructive and pretty impromptu, at least for something that came out of 2011. This is yet another case where, you know what? We're here now talking about a film that is 10 years old now. Man, 12 years old, now 22. I will say that this has been quite a turnabout, but when you look at it this way, Liam Neeson's career has been staggeringly high, especially when you take a look at most other older films, like the Star Wars series. Yeah, the good old stranger Qui-Gon Jinn, alongside Ewan McGregor's character Obi-Wan Kenobi. But that's just pretty much what we see here. Many years later, we got ourselves Neeson, a guy from the United Kingdom, and who is in fact somebody whom even Peter Griffin cannot kick, which almost sounds unfortunate, but it just really explains that Neeson is an unbelievable actor. By today's standards, I'm really looking forward to what we could potentially see. I was actually able to talk about The Ice Road, which is by far the most recent one, and that came out back in June. Now it's September. time sure does fly in all this. And when you really get down to it, this series has been going on since June as well. So, again, that's a pretty nice upheaval of content that I was able to draw out to the channel between then and now. But you know what though, going back to Unknown, there's a lot of things that take place here. Lots of twists and turns happen before eventually Neeson does in fact succeed. After finding out who was the real identity thief, who was the mastermind behind the entire operation, well, as you pretty much could tell what goes on down from there. Fights take place, gunshots, car wrecks, chases of all sorts of things. It's that typical sort of action hero stuff that you expect to find around here. But the whole thing about this is solving the mystery of an identity thief. That's basically what this film is entirely about. It begins with someone who ends up getting into a car accident. A thief comes in, steals everything, including the identity and all known documentations. Pretty much anything else that could be found. But in the end, of course, this story does in fact end with the thief losing. Such an extensive, elaborate plan gets brought down by the brinks of one single person fighting for truth and justice. And that's pretty much all you need to hear. But in a way, I will say that this was a pretty enjoyable experience. I was certainly captivated by the many things that took place, the complications that had aroused. Because identity theft is an extreme crime out there. It is very difficult to get a hold of. And it's also pretty difficult to find out who in fact was responsible for any of that. Identity theft is extremely hard to figure out. It's probably one of the most cryptic level crimes in history. And for a film like this to actually capitalize on such a huge anomaly that had been happening lots of times over, that really is something we did deserve to have. And I'm glad that we do, because at least a film like this now exists, and now it's 10 years old, which is crazy. Because the real crimes that we're facing nowadays are extreme. But by all means, I probably won't have it any other way. To get to know that there was a film surrounding identity theft is a pretty nice treat. And to be able to watch it is something even better. And now I've come here to review the whole entire thing, and, well, that's pretty much all I can do for right now. When giving this thing a score, I probably won't necessarily go too much in detail on that. I've kind of been slacking off pretty much. So at this point, we're just going to skip the scorings on the other films I've done lately. From Dusk Till Dawn, I'll probably go ahead and give it a 7.9. And then there was San Andreas, I give that a 7.3. Dora and the Lost City of Gold, I give an 8.0. And here, Unknown, 7.6 out of 10. Not necessarily the top of the line identity theft film out there, as there are many examples of crime-based films. Mystery, horror, shooting, drama, all sorts of things that take place. Liam Neeson's the real star. And it's safe to say we'll probably be seeing a lot more work like this going forward. But at this point, I will just say that at least it was a nice experience to get to see something fresh and not something that seems to be rather repetitive in nature. So by all means, it's enjoyable. Maybe just for one occasion, every now and then. And so, that's it. This is what I got here. Films I should have talked about years ago is now coming to a close. At least for a while. Until I can probably find some way to get back into it without having so many distractions by my side. Until that happens though, I'm bound to find other ways to get my content up and rolling. If you want to see more go down on my channel, then well, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.